Yusoff Rawther versus Anwar Ibrahim, legal battles on two fronts. Mohammed Yusoff Rawther, a former research assistant to Malaysian Prime Minister Anwar Ibrahim, is currently embroiled in two high-profile legal proceedings, one civil, the other criminal. 1. Civil suit against Prime Minister Anwar Ibrahim. In July 2021, Yusoff filed a civil lawsuit against Anwar, alleging that the Prime Minister sexually assaulted him on October 2, 2018, at Anwar's residence in Sagambut, Kuala Lumpur. Yusoff is seeking special, general, aggravated, and exemplary damages, asserting that the assault and subsequent public allegations of political sabotage have taken a toll on his mental health. The High Court has fixed the trial dates for June 16 to 19 and June 23 to 25, 2025. Anwar has filed a counterclaim. Notably, the court recently dismissed Yusoff's application to admit a polygraph test as evidence, deeming it irrelevant to the fair resolution of the case. 2. Criminal charges against Yusoff Rawther. Separately, in September 2024, Yusoff was charged with drug trafficking and firearms possession following a police raid on his vehicle, a Nissan Tiana, outside the Dangwangi police headquarters. Authorities reportedly found 305 grams of cannabis and 2 pistols. The defense has attacked the integrity of the investigation, highlighting inconsistencies in police testimony and procedural lapses. A key example includes a police inspector who incorrectly testified about opening the car door with a key, only to later admit under court scrutiny that the door had no keyhole. The defense claims the criminal charges are politically motivated and retaliatory in nature, stemming from Yusoff's sexual assault allegations against Anwar. They have submitted documents from the civil suit to substantiate this claim. Current status, as of May 2025, both legal matters remain unresolved. The High Court is reviewing whether the evidence in the criminal case is admissible and whether the investigation was fundamentally flawed. Meanwhile, the civil trial is set to proceed in June 2025, with both parties preparing for what promises to be a contentious courtroom battle. Implications for Anwar Ibrahim's credibility and political career if Yusoff Rawther wins the civil case. By Azlan Adnan. Should Mohammed Yusoff Rawther prevail in his civil suit against Prime Minister Anwar Ibrahim, the consequences could be seismic, not just for Anwar's personal credibility, but for the broader legitimacy of his leadership and his coalition government. A court ruling affirming Yusoff's claims of sexual assault would indelibly tarnish Anwar's public image, undermining the moral authority he has long cultivated as a reformist icon and proponent of ethical governance. Politically, such a verdict could trigger a rapid erosion of support from within Pakatan Harapan and its allies. Many of Anwar's supporters have rallied around him based on his narrative of past persecution and his long struggle for justice and democratic reform. A legal finding of personal misconduct would compromise that narrative, raising uncomfortable parallels with past accusations he has always vehemently denied. The moral high ground that Anwar has stood upon for decades would be swept from under him. Moreover, a victory for Yusoff would give ammunition to Anwar's political adversaries, particularly in Perikatan Nasional and UMNO factions that remain wary of his leadership. They would be quick to capitalize on the verdict, potentially tabling a vote of no confidence or pressuring coalition partners to reconsider their support. Internationally, Malaysia's standing could take a hit, especially in the eyes of human rights advocates and democratic partners who have seen Anwar as a progressive alternative to Malaysia's political old guard. From a governance standpoint, such a scandal would be a distraction at best, and at worst, it could paralyze Anwar's administration. Attention would shift from pressing national issues to damage control, legal appeals, and political survival. This could embolden opposition forces and destabilize the government's reform agenda. While a civil court victory does not carry the same legal weight as a criminal conviction, the court of public opinion often renders harsher judgments. If the ruling affirms Yusoff's version of events, Anwar may find that even if he retains his post legally, he loses the moral legitimacy essential to effective leadership. In that scenario, resignation or replacement might become a political necessity rather than a choice. Ultimately, the outcome of the civil case is not just about the two men involved. It is a litmus test for the credibility of Malaysian leadership in the post-Reformasi era. Political instability and its wider implications for Malaysia. If the civil verdict leads to Anwar's political downfall, Malaysia could enter another cycle of instability, echoing the turbulence of the post-GE14 period. A weakened or collapsing government would deter foreign investors already wary of Malaysia's fragmented political landscape. Policy continuity, vital for long-term investments, particularly in energy transition, infrastructure, and high-tech sectors, would be jeopardized. Investor confidence hinges on a predictable, stable leadership. An abrupt power vacuum or protracted leadership contest could spark capital flight, pressure the ringgit, and stall crucial economic reforms. Malaysia's fiscal health, already burdened by subsidy obligations and post-pandemic recovery efforts, would face heightened scrutiny. Diplomatically, Malaysia's regional and global credibility would suffer. Anwar has been seen as a steadying hand in ASEAN, especially on issues like Myanmar, regional integration, and balancing relations with China and the West. His removal could slow diplomatic momentum and alter the trajectory of key bilateral ties, particularly those rooted in Anwar's personal rapport with global leaders. Uncertainty in Putrajaya might also embolden regional rivals and reduce Malaysia's influence in shaping ASEAN's future. In short, domestic political tremors could reverberate far beyond Malaysia's shores, economically, diplomatically, and reputationally. If Anwar Ibrahim wins, political consolidation or Pyrrhic victory? By Azlan Adnan. If Prime Minister Anwar Ibrahim successfully defends himself in the civil suit brought by Mohammed Yusoff Rawther, it would mark a significant personal and political vindication. For Anwar, who has weathered decades of legal and political trials, a court ruling in his favor would reinforce his long-standing claim that allegations of misconduct have been weaponized to derail his political ascent. A judicial dismissal of Yusoff's claims would also restore, at least in part, his moral credibility and bolster his image as a victim of political persecution rather than a perpetrator of abuse. Politically, a legal victory would strengthen Anwar's standing within the Pakatan Harapan coalition and among wavering MPs, reinforcing his mandate to govern. It could silence internal dissent, discourage attempts to unseat him, and give his administration renewed momentum to advance its reform agenda. His narrative of resilience and integrity in the face of relentless smear campaigns would be reaffirmed, potentially reinvigorating public support. Internationally, a favorable verdict could reassure foreign investors and diplomatic partners who value predictability and stability in leadership. Anwar's continued presence in office would likely mean continuity in Malaysia's foreign policy, particularly his balanced approach to great power competition and emphasis on regional cooperation in ASEAN. It could also preserve the personal trust he has cultivated with key leaders in Southeast Asia, the Middle East, and the West. However, the outcome would not be without complications. Critics will likely accuse the judiciary of bias, especially given Anwar's incumbency. This could deepen public cynicism toward Malaysian institutions, particularly among opposition supporters and civil society actors. The case may be dismissed legally, but politically, it will linger in the public consciousness, much like Anwar's earlier trials. In that sense, a win may close the courtroom chapter, but not the broader political narrative. Furthermore, if the court rules in Anwar's favor without adequately addressing public concerns about transparency and fairness, it may embolden detractors to pursue the matter through alternative means, media exposés, parliamentary maneuvers, or renewed legal challenges. The opposition could shift its focus from the allegation itself to perceptions of elite impunity. Ultimately, a legal win would stabilize Anwar's position in the short term, but in the long run, his ability to lead effectively will depend on more than just a court ruling. It will require sustained economic delivery, institutional reform, and the political finesse to rebuild trust across a polarized electorate. Win or lose, the damage has been done. By Azlan Adnan. Regardless of the civil suit's outcome, the political and reputational damage to Prime Minister Anwar Ibrahim is already significant. The very fact that such serious allegations were brought against him and have now progressed to trial has undermined the moral high ground he long claimed as a reformist and ethical leader. For a man who has built his legacy on justice, transparency, and religious rectitude, the optics alone are corrosive. In the court of public opinion, perception often trumps legal truth. Many Malaysians now view Anwar not as a principled reformer, but as another politician tainted by scandal and double standards. The narrative of hypocrisy is gaining traction. That the man who once decried political persecution now stands accused of abuse and is shielded by the very institutions he vowed to reform. Even a court victory will not undo the whispers, memes, and political ammunition the case has provided his enemies. For fence-sitters and idealists who once hoped for a clean break from Malaysia's toxic political culture, this episode reinforces disillusionment. Anwar may continue as Prime Minister, but the aura of moral authority that once set him apart has dimmed, perhaps irreparably. A heartfelt light. To every soul whose hand did give, you've helped me dream, helped me live. In darkest hours your light came through, with hearts so kind, so pure, so true. Your gifts, like stars in deepest night, have steered me gently toward the light. Each coin, each word, each silent prayer, a thread of hope so rich, so rare. My eyes once dimmed now seek the skies, and slowly clearer visions rise. Because of you, I dare to see the world again, its grace, its plea. Your compassion's flame will not just stay with me alone. It lights the way for others wandering through despair to feel the warmth of selfless care. You've shown what love in action means, in quiet ways through giving scenes. You've built a bridge from soul to soul and made the broken feel more whole. So let this thanks rise like a song, a melody both soft and strong. May your example gently call more hearts to rise to give. To fall into the joy of lifting pain, of planting hope where none remains. Your kindness walks beside me still, a light, a love, a living will.
Don't forget to hit that subscribe button to show your support.